Bases dropped on a Wall Pass Wednesday here at Soccer Down Here. John here, Jarrett there. Packed show this morning. Dylan Butler. See, and this is the grand assumption that I always make. I always forget to email Dylan like on Tuesday afternoon saying, "Hey, you still cool for coming on at 10 o'clock to talk soccer and playoffs and things?" So in a perfect world, Dylan Butler will receive his entry code into the studio, and he'll join us at 10 o'clock. Bart Keeler rejoins at 9:30, and we will discuss the women's national team with the matchup against Spain, because I know that Jason Nix will want to discuss the matchup of the U.S. women's national team against Spain with Bart, and we'll get into that. And I know that also all of you guys want to discuss what happened yesterday with the postmortem with Gonzalo Pineda and Carlos Bocanegra, and I did the voice-to-text transcription, and it came out to about 10 pages, and I have the little version here with notes, 50 minutes of the two of them, and we can get into that. We can get into anything you want. We got Champions League from yesterday, a couple of surprises. Yeah, exactly. So we can get into Champions League yesterday, and so plenty to get into. Merritt Paulson, I'm sure that will be a topic of conversation over the next little while as well, considering what he announced yesterday. And we will continue to go. Once again, the nature of a Wall Pass Wednesday is whatever's on your mind. And we will discuss whatever's on your mind, doesn't matter what it is. And that was kind of why I brought in this particular idea for the opening kickoff, brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee, kickoffcoffeeco.com. There's your QR code for those of you watching on Twitch. And once again, reminder, you can follow along Kickoff Coffee on Twitter, on Facebook, and on Instagram, Kickoff Coffee CO, in addition to the website at kickoffcoffeeco.com. Don't forget, use the code SoccerDownHere15. You get 15% off of your purchase with anything associated with Kickoff Coffee, and they in turn take 10% and roll it over into the youth game. So there's your QR code once again at kickoffcoffeeco.com, Kickoff Coffee CO on all of your social medias. So the question this morning, and in addition to the question from yesterday that I'm still going to have up until further notice, is like, okay, since Atlanta United is not in the postseason for Major League Soccer, who are you rooting for? Jarrett brought his morning plans together before we were on the air in the green room and discussed where he went to grab breakfast on the way back to the home office. And Jarrett, you said where?
Oh, Martin's, because that's where you should always go if you get the chance. If you can find a Martin's, you should go to a Martin's.
Yes, and that is an understood. Those of us, unfortunately, on the other side of town, have issues in trying to find said Martin's in a timely
That's
fashion.
your misfortune.
Martin's needs to expand to the eastern side of town more than anything else, with their 20 locations worldwide. And most of them are on the western side of the world. So
half of them are in Douglas County and Southwest Cobb. No big deal.
Yes. So like I said, western side of the planet. For those of us on the eastern side of the planet, it's a little hard to kind of, get up, drive over, get Martin's, come back, and start your day. What is your favorite hole-in-the-wall place to get food? Doesn't matter what meal it is. What is your favorite kind of your own little private place that you think, you know that a lot of other folks in your circle may know, but a lot of folks may not know? Where is your outside-the-box, hole-in-the-wall go-to place to get food? Doesn't matter if it's breakfast, lunch, or dinner.
I don't know if I'd even call it a hole in the wall, because people in downtown, in certain areas like the Fourth Ward will know it, but like Bantam Pub, if we're down like off the Beltline, I'll walk the Beltline to go to Bantam to get the lamb burger out of them.
Okay.
They do a lamb burger on a I don't even know everything they're doing to it. I haven't been in so long now. They did a really good lamb burger for so long that was absolutely fantastic. And anytime we were down, we used to play flag football down at the park, near the skate park. and we get done playing, and we just walk over to hop on the belt line, walk for 10 minutes, and you're at Bantam. That was always my go-to.
Okay, David's in this morning, and he says Nick's Greek Restaurant.
That's a very good shout, if it's the one I'm thinking of.
Yeah, because I do not know about Nick's Greek Restaurant. Of course, I would actually also have to know about eating Greek food to know about Nick's Greek Restaurant. So,
if I'm not mistaken, if it's the one in Marietta, yeah.
Okay.
You also have the family that owns all of the Marietta restaurants, like Marietta Diner and the Marietta Fish Company and the Cherokee Cattle Company, that sort of thing.
Okay. All right. So David is in this morning with Nick's Greek Restaurant, and he says right near downtown Memorial and Hill is the one where David.
Oh, that's not the one I know. I'm gonna have to go to that then.
Yeah. So as a part of our shared experiences that we have, regardless of sport. So David has put in here Nick's Greek Restaurant, and it's downtown, the downtown Nick's of Memorial and Hill. So your hole in the wall place for breakfast, lunch, or dinner. And because, when Jarrett mentions Martin, he gets us all hungry anyway. And so that was, that was kind of why I thought about food early on this morning. And so it is a two-pronged attack with the QOD. Who are you rooting for? If you didn't answer yesterday, who are you rooting for with Atlanta United out in the MLS playoffs, and your favorite hole-in-the-wall restaurant that you and your friends may know that no one else may? Where is it? What is it? So this way we can have the shared experiences. Okay. So David says it's next door to the GSU soccer complex. Okay.
Oh, see, I've shot games there. I have no excuse now. Oh, I know where I'm going next time I have to shoot a game.
There you go. Okay. So that is definitely opening the door. Well done, David. So that's part of it. And once again, I'll circle through these two questions throughout the entire morning. Once again, Bart Keeler joining us at the bottom of the hour to talk stuff, women's national team. And I know that he wants to talk about the Atlanta United press conference that happened yesterday. Dylan Butler on at 10 o'clock. And we know that Dylan will discuss things on a national level. We'll talk about Caleb Porter being fired. I wish I had a laugh track. Caleb Porter being fired in Columbus, everything working its way into the playoffs, and discussing the playoffs coming in this weekend in Major League Soccer. And so we'll get his thoughts and all of your thoughts on everything. Wall Pass Wednesday, once again, everything's on the table on a Wall Pass Wednesday. Seriously, that's why we have always had this format on Wednesdays. It's the middle of the week. Stuff has happened. Stuff's about to happen. So we're at the peak of the laugher curve for the week. So, whatever's on your mind, everybody, that's why we have those two questions, and that's why we have the randomness of the opening kickoff. Brought to us by our friends. Thank you, Abby. Brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee, kickoffcoffeeco.com. There's your QR code. You hit the QR code, and once again, that takes you straight to Kickoff Coffee. And you can follow them on Twitter, on Facebook, and on Instagram, kickoffcoffeeco.com. Use the code SoccerDownHere15 for all of your purchases involving anything at Kickoff Coffee. And then in turn, they take 10%, reinvest it in the youth game. Very, very cool stuff that we're seeing from our friends at Kickoff Coffee, kickoffcoffeeco.com. All right. Opening segment. Jarrett, how much of the postmortem did you see yesterday involving C/here/read involving Gonzalo Pineda and Carlos Bocanegra?
Not a ton of it. I mean, I saw it kind of get disseminated by everybody in the process. A lot of it for me is also I have a 9 to 5. So that takes a lot of my day. Where I can only get away for so long during the day.
And those darned Braves with their afternoon baseball.
Dude, no. See, this is the thing. I started watching that game, realized that Max Fried was going to have a bad Max Fried game, like he so often does in the playoffs, and thought, okay, this is fine. Celtic plays soon. Hey, look, the only good thing about that Celtic match was the fact that Cameron Carter-Vickers might have found a forever home in Glasgow. Like, they might not ever let him leave. He wore the armband yesterday with Callum McGregor sidelined. And basically watching Celtic is like watching 2022 Atlanta United right now. They create plenty of chances. The game was pretty even on that side of things. XG and chances created and that whatnot. Red Bull Leipzig just put theirs away and Celtic chose not to. Like it's like watching Atlanta United. Like, wow, they make some fun things happen. Wow, they get in good positions. Wow, I don't know how you missed that, but you did. Yeah. It was like watching that. So yeah, that was a good. Good Braves game went almost 4 hours. That's a good 6 hours of my day that I'll never get back. And then I kept up with the women's team. Like I've got enough I've got enough disappointment going on. I'm not gonna add the women's national team to it.
Yeah, that's for Bart at the bottom of the hour. Abby says that AJ's Seafood is a great place for po' boys as a hole in the wall, and Abby's also going to the Braves game today. So eat before you go, unless you want to pay $9 gazillion for a cheeseburger at the Battery. So
yeah, that still to this day pisses me off to no end, and I think it's because we all spent so much time at Mercedes-Benz. When I went to a Braves game about less than a month ago, like, got a hot dog, and like they told me how much it was. I'm like, oh God, what? Why? Jesus, y'all don't need to charge that. Why? You're as much money as you're making off the Battery. Why? Quit charging me all this money.
But yeah, they are. So that's their thing. But some of the highlights, and like I said, I know that. Excuse me. I know that.
I don't know what people expected out of it.
Yeah.
Like, if you were expecting some grand revelation, this isn't the end of the movie Iron Man where he sits at the press conference and announces like the mic drop of I am Iron Man. Like, that doesn't happen at press conferences most times.
Yeah.
Like, if you were expecting something grand, I don't know what to tell you. Like, it was just going to be an end of the season kind of boilerplate thing, man.
Yeah. And Abby's eating ahead of the game, smartly played. I went to the last home game of the season. Some guy paid $13 for a foot-long hot dog.
Yeah, I am irrationally upset anytime I have to pay copious amounts of money for food at a sporting event. To the point now, I eat before I go. I cannot deal with it.
Yeah, Abby says Atlanta United fans are spoiled with the food prices at MBS. But so with Carlos, players are off for the week. Back in 3 weeks, they're coming in small groups, and then they'll meet with players and agents coming up after that. Both Carlos and Gonzalo Pineda said that their relationship with Joseph Martinez is fine. Nothing's been decided when it comes to any player's future, much less Joseph Martinez, who obviously was a focus of the conversation. You had folks asking about positional upgrades and things like that, and where are you looking? And they're not going to tell you. You can kind of assume and assimilate information and where you're looking at things, but you're not going to get, as you said, Jared, it's going to be very boilerplate. It's going to be very, very tab A slot B-ish, and they're not going to give away their hand when it comes to what they're looking for in the offseason, whether it's pick a position or, any other player, or if any team wants to come in and look at, say, a Thiago Almada or any of the other Atlanta United players. They're not going to give away their hand and put, and lay it all out there for the sake of information, what's going on. And it will be an interesting offseason. That is no lie. But right now, they're not going to tell. They're not going to sit here and say, okay, here's where we're going to pursue things. And here's who's on the block, and here's what we're going to chase in return. Now, they're not going to say those kinds of things, and they didn't yesterday. Trying to go through, no discussions, nothing's decided about Joseph. Go ahead, Jared.
No, yeah, it makes sense. Like, you're not going to have any as you go through that. Yeah, I don't think there was ever going to be anything like grand or amazing. Nothing that was going to go viral in it. It's just end of the season. Press conference, they'll address the disappointment of everything. They'll talk about being disappointed in it. We don't know contract situations because this isn't like other sports in America where we know what the contract is.
And
like, we can speculate.
Yes, and that is one of the big holes that we have here in pursuing Major League Soccer on a daily basis, is that we don't have contract information, we don't have cap information, and therefore we really can't plug and play. We can sit here and say, okay, someone's on a veteran's salary. We can go to the MLSPA website and sit here and say, okay, here's the deal. Here's what so-and-so is making through the eyes of the PA. But there are salary questions and cap questions that we will perpetually have because we don't have all the information. And I think that holds Major League Soccer back in the public landscape because you're not giving all of this information. In the NBA, you're over the cap, what the deals are, and you can kind of sit there and do plug and play, trade programs and things like that to try to figure out if a particular trade will work. National Hockey League, they lay it all out there with their cap. NFL, you know that you've got a cap figure and the salary figures are there, but Major League Soccer right now does not have that same kind of matching information. And it's difficult for us to cover, and it makes it even that much more difficult to talk about and sit there and extrapolate, okay, well, so-and-so makes this, so-and-so makes this. How does that fit within the cap? Well, I don't know, because we don't know what the cap is. It's disappointing that we don't have this information and that we're still having to fish for it after all this time.
It is we're going to have questions about guys like Emerson Hyndman, where, I think they phrased it as he's going to come train with the team in the offseason. Is that because he's under contract, or is because he's going to train here? Because I mentioned this last week. If I'm out of contract with a team, but they're like, hey, you can train with us till the end of the calendar year when your contract is technically up, hell yes, I'm using every facility I possibly can to see about making sure I'm in shape for either keeping a contract here or getting a contract elsewhere. We don't know what his situation is. It's been 3 years here. Actually, came in 2019. So 20, 21, 22. It's been 4 years for Emerson Hyndman. It's been 3 years for Matthias Asetu. Not sure how those guys fit on contracts. There are other guys I'm sure I'm forgetting who are kind of at that window now. Like, okay, let's go through like guys like Machop Chol. Like, what does his future look like? What does Jackson Conway's look like? I'll probably have something written at SDH probably by the end of this week if I can get it done, or early next week, about like kind of a status report for the kids who were the twos who are coming out of the academy, because some of those guys are going to be pushing for some of those slots. And it might be a thing like a Bryce Washington isn't going to stick, but he can go somewhere else. And now you get Noah Cobb taking that spot in the homegrown pecking order. If Machop Chol doesn't stick, is it somebody else who takes it, like Luke Brennan continuing to get better and better, or a Johnny Fortune trying to force the hand of somebody in the midfield to be part of, game day 19s. We will have to see kind of how that goes.
Yeah.
But we don't know the contract situation, so it's kind of hard to figure all this out. And they don't have to make their end of the season decisions. If you guys remember, every season you'll see it where somebody will announce their end of season roster decisions, and it'll be like, so-and-so is under contract, so-and-so is a free agent. We've picked up options on such and such, and we have declined options on, on so-and-so. We don't know what that looks like yet. And it's really hard to figure out until they actually tell you. A lot of times you are kind of firing off into the dark.
Yeah. Abby mentions Marcelino Moreno, and for Carlos, it was a question from Tom Bogert. And, once again, Carlos said that they're happy with him. Obviously that he didn't play as much coming down the stretch. And then when Gonzalo was asked about it, I'm trying to find my notes at like 900 miles an hour here. You had, you're trying to balance, and it was a good answer. I thought that it was an answer from Gonzalo Pineda where Marcelino Moreno was concerned, where you're kind of, you're explaining the lay of the land, especially down the stretch, where Marcelino, and I was about to go down the Liam Neeson Taken road. He has a particular set of skills, and when you have a player with a certain skill set and you're going up against a team where you may need Marcy to do things, but not at the beginning, that's why others were playing. When you go, and the specific example that was made by Gonzalo is like when you had a back five, then you're sacrificing someone in the attack, and then that would be Marcelino Moreno at times. And so obviously, Marcy's a fantastic talent, and Gonzalo and Carlos admitted to this. But once again, when you have more players at the back than you're sacrificing at the front, when you have an idea of how your opposition is going to be going against you, and sometimes you have to make those tough decisions. And Marcelino Moreno was one of those tough decisions about sacrificing offense to have five at the back, where you can have Wiley and your strike backer in Gutman and Juanjo Purata and Franco and Brooks Lennon at the back. And so it literally is, and that's what I would caution just in general, is that when you're looking at a roster and you're looking at players not starting, take it game by game. Take it on a game-by-game basis as to what that other team is bringing to the table and what you may have to do in return. And I think that Gonzalo Pineda in the press conference yesterday mentioning the notion of having to sacrifice in the attack when you need 5 at the back, I think that that's probably the best example and the best way that I could present it is that you're looking at this on a game-by-game basis, and it just so happens that when you have 5, you have to sacrifice, and Marcelino Jarrett was that guy.
Yeah, and Marcelino, I've said before, and I stand by it, I think he might be a guy that's gone in the offseason. Mm-hmm. If you can find a move within the league, like to RSL, Colorado, someplace like that where they can build it around him, I wonder if he might be that guy who moves. And it's not because he's not talented, it's just it doesn't fit right now with Thiago Almada, and everything's going to run through Thiago Almada. He is, he is the vessel here.
Yeah.
To harness the destroyer to bring down New York City in the shape of the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. He is the one who brings about Gozer. But Marcelino Moreno doesn't really fit into that right now, it looks like.
Right.
And he might be a guy who goes out because of that.
Yeah.
How do you fill that spot in the roster? That's a good question. Frees up a lot of TAM. Same if Franco Escobar is gone. Frees up a lot of TAM.
Mm-hmm.
Or Franco Escobar, Alan Franco, excuse me.
Right.
But there's a lot to figure out with that.
Yeah.
Where those kind of moves happen. And then what do you find to provide backup for Thiago Almada? Because look, by the way, guys are getting injured for the Argentine national team at a bit of a clip here.
Yes.
And if that continues, it's a non-zero chance Thiago Almada plays it, might find his way into one of these, late on the cut list or making it to the World Cup as an end of the bench kind of guy. I'm not expecting great things from him at the World Cup. Don't get me wrong, not because he's not talented, because he's still a kid. And it's dangerous to thrust too much expectation on people. But if he actually does go to the World Cup, I feel like that offer is going to come real quick, and you got to make plans. But you're always trying to make plans to build. I am not the key master, David. Nor am I the gatekeeper. Although shout out to Rick Moranis for getting back into acting finally.
Yes. Yes.
He got out for really noble reasons to take care of his kids.
Yep.
But Rick Moranis is back acting, so yeah, maybe we'll get a sequel to Strange Brew.
Oh. And we could hope
get him and Dave Thomas back on it. But yeah, this is an interesting one for me because I don't know what Marcelino Moreno's future here is, and he would be if I had to lay down. Let's see, it's almost Halloween, and since Jason's not here, we can break out the Halloween candies.
Yes, we can.
So if we're laying out Halloween candies, if you're making me throw down something I care about, man, that's $100,000 bar. I'd be dropping $100,000 bar on Marcelino being the guy who is possibly the big move out of the team, but maybe within the league, because I think other teams could definitely.
No, I think that Marcelino is definitely somebody to keep an eye on when it comes to the future of the futures, and so he would be one definitely that you kind of keep an eye on when it comes to all of this. Yeah, that is true, David. You jump into the wrong point of Strange Brew, it could be the most confusing watch ever. But when you have Geddy Lee and the McKenzie brothers, I still have that 45, by the way. This is where Wall Pass Wednesday takes us. I still have that 45 of Takeoff and buried in my stacks somewhere. Because when the movie came out, and being the Rush fan that I am, when you have the 45 of Geddy Lee and the McKenzie brothers singing Takeoff, then absolutely amazing. Max von Sydow, underrated talent to be able to do a movie like that as well. So, and then on the B side, L. Ron McKenzie, their other family member that's a part and parcel to all of that. But no, that's a definite B side pickup there. If you can find the 45 for Takeoff, definitely do that. It is 9:30, so back-to-back visits by this guy. Bart Keeler beat 2-3-4. with that intro. Okay, so since you're wearing the shirt, all right, lay it out for me. What happened yesterday?
Just didn't get runs when you needed to get runs. I mean, we had plenty of guys on base, but loaded the bases a couple times and just couldn't get them in. Not a great first inning, and I think if you don't have that first inning, you get they got 2 runs in the first. I think if that doesn't happen, if you get out of that inning after 2 outs, you're looking at a completely different ball game. But just certain things didn't go your way. I think the Phillies, especially during those first couple innings, got some timely, lucky hits that we just couldn't find when we had runners in scoring position.
And Max Fried has given up 4+ runs in 3 of his last 4 postseason starts.
Yeah.
He has some big Greg Maddux energy in that regular season god. Postseason, it gets sick. It can get a little sideways. His best start of the postseason happened to be World Series Game 6. He timed it beautifully. Other than that, Max Fried's been kind of in the postseason.
I mean, we see this when you have guys who are, Maddux is the best example, right? Or the best comparison of guys who are not about power and more about finding ways to put batters off and get them unsettled. But in the postseason, when everyone's so dialed in at the plate, it's a little bit easier. I credit Snitker, unlike the managers that we've had previous with the Braves. He wasn't afraid to actually pull him, which is kind of I don't think he went too long. But I know we've seen, how many times did we see in the 90s Maddux or Glavine just stay out there for way too long and then get in a hole you can't get out of.
See, but that's the thing.
We can hot take this to the moon and back that a different manager wins more than 1 World Series in the 90s. So
I don't think that's a hot take. I think that's like a very legitimate take. Now, does a different manager get 14 division titles in a row, and does a different manager get them to the postseason as many times as they did? That's the question.
Maybe not 14, but still plenty when you got 3 Hall of Fame pitchers.
When you've got 3 Hall of Famers in your starting rotation, you've got multiple Hall of Famers in the field at different points in time, and you've just got generally great all-star type players throughout the. Yeah, I agree.
When you're in charge of the launch codes and the launch codes are your birthday, it doesn't make it difficult.
Yeah, that's fair.
Well, and so joining in as folks do, Coco says, "Are we whining about Max Fried yet?" And so Coco,
I don't think we're whining about Max Fried. I think Jarrett was just trying to
I am critical of him in the postseason.
Yes.
His best postseason start was timed absolutely perfectly. Otherwise, I think it was Eric O'Flaherty did a breakdown of it, where if you watched his stride length, not his stride length, the timing on his stretch and his windup, when he rushes things, that's when things get sideways. And it's almost like he gets too amped up in the playoffs and he starts rushing and then starts leaving the ball in the middle of the zone. But when he can take a deep breath and calm down, he's fine. Or step on his ankle. That seems to work too.
Yes.
And that was the thing about yesterday, Jarrett, you mentioned, is like his first 2 batters looked really good. He got them to give him pretty easy. I think one was a weak chopper to first, and the other was a fly out. And it's like, okay, great. And then you get to 2 outs, and you got to,
Byrne wants us to move on, so you can.
Another manager who we need to.
He wants to turn the rail gun on Vlatko.
All right, so turn the rail gun on Vlatko because. It's.
I'm not getting in the way of this.
No, not at all. No. I'm trying to see what if there are any previous comments leading into.
Yeah, I kind of more agree with Soccer for Good OG right now. It's the women's soccer pyramid is screwed up, and I think, look, we can criticize Vlatko for yesterday's match because I think that he did not adjust to a team playing in a 3-back formation. A good team playing in the 3-back formation. I think Vlatko is I think he's both tactically variable, but his setup doesn't really change. And that's kind of my issue that I saw yesterday, especially was and you heard Alex Morgan talk about this over the summer of Vlatko wants them to play different ways against different teams, which is good. Like you want to have that tactical flexibility and variability, but when you aren't I mean, a 3-back formation, sometimes you do need to make a change of your own formation. And it really could have been very easy to just either move Trinity Rodman higher or Megan Rapinoe higher and say, okay, well, we're attacking in a 2-forward formation, or maybe, you try to find a way to get a midfielder forward. But, I think yesterday was a little bit more of the same in that first half, especially where we had a lot of possession. We did. We possessed the ball very well against Spain. We created good turnovers against Spain. It wasn't quite the high press that I wanted, but it was pressure higher up the field when Spain was trying to build out the back. And there were long stretches of that first half that, though Spain had possession, that possession was very much in their defensive third, and especially their defensive half. And you just couldn't create chances out of it. Now, part of that, again, was that 3-back formation that forced our players wide and forced us to just get the ball wide and put crosses in, which has been an issue for this team. There's too much talent and creativity for you to just get the ball wide and cross it in. But yesterday's tactics from Spain kind of forced you to do that. Also, I think it's very fair to say that there is just a lack of intensity from the team. And I don't know how you blame any one person for that, given the current situation that they're dealing with. It did feel like, especially at the end, that I forget who it was, but I saw someone on Twitter just say, like, you needed someone to kind of go into that avatar mode, like you've had in the past, and just no one was able to do that. And I think that's more to do with the fact that emotionally and mentally, these players are kind of spent after this week. I tweeted after the game, I think this is a camp that everyone wants to put behind them. Not necessarily forget, but just put behind them and get out. And a lot of these players have NWSL playoffs to look forward to. But overall, it just wasn't good. And it's fair to say that. The question for me is, what does the window against Germany look like? And will you make changes to correct the problems you had in this window? Because if you don't, then you're going to have problems. And then you can start talking about, does Vlatko need to be fired?
Let's go through the numbers. And once again, this is from our friends at Soccer America. Okay, so it's Atlanta United in the mug today. So he's wearing the Atlanta Braves T-shirt and the Atlanta United mug. So
My Atlanta Braves mug broke.
Uh-oh.
I may have got really excited one morning and dropped it.
Yes.
But it was the AJC cover of the finally World Series. Yeah, breakingt.com. So
okay,
I just haven't replaced it yet.
Okay. As I mentioned previously, Soccer America.
Jason, wait, hold on.
Yeah.
Jason, next, we did not get stroked by the Spain B team. Let's stop this.
Okay.
We dominated that first half.
Go for it.
We absolutely dominated that first half. We were a much better team in the first half. We did not get the goals that we needed. Spain got a very lucky goal on a corner kick, something that we did not do very well at all. We did not execute set pieces well at all this window, and that is coaching for sure. It's also Megan Rapinoe needed to remember how to hit a corner kick, because she overcooked just about every single one of them. But yeah, it needs to be a wake-up call. Sorry, continue.
No worries. No, and that's the beauty of these shows, is that specifically, if something pops up in the Twitch pitch, go for it, yell for it, and then call it out. That's what this gelatinous conversation is all about. I mean, wherever it comes from is wherever it goes. Soccer America ratings, and I use this as a baseline, but as I said in the past, the Soccer America ratings are like me when I vote for Emmy nominations. It seems I'm a very, very tough voter. So Soccer America's ratings on the day, not a whole lot of 5s. There were a lot of 3s and 4s. Casey Murphy had a 4.
That's generous.
Your defenders, and here's the rationale: played out of the back well, let down by your defense on Spain's 2 goals, did well to backpedal, save an errant cross going in. Murphy parried away across poorly in the second half and was lucky there wasn't a Spanish attacker there to capitalize on the error. All right, so defenders. Haley Mays got a 5. Alana Cook and Carson Pickett both had 3s. Becky Sauerbrunn was given a 4.
Yeah, I thought both outside backs were not good at all, and that's an area of concern. I think we definitely need to address the fact that defensively we don't have anyone who's stepped up to really be a lockdown defender. Emily Fox kind of was that on that left side, and she obviously got hurt against England. Haley Mace wasn't able to do that against England. I think Haley Mace had a very bad camp, and I would be concerned if Vlatko brings her back, because she didn't deserve it. She didn't do anything to deserve a second call-up. Huerta wasn't fully fit, it seemed, so Mace got the start at right back. Again, I'd give her a little bit of credit that she's versatile, but you got to be good at something, and she wasn't good at anything really this camp. Pickett was disappointing, but also she got flown in, between games and starting. So I think it's very fair to say that the back line was a problem this camp. It was also very unsettled, both going into and during this camp. So I don't think the defenders were very good at all.
All right, midfield. Rose Lavelle got a 3.
Yeah.
Started her game strong, winning fouls, finding space around Spain's 5-deep backline, then faded from the game as the women's national team opted to bypass the midfield, look for balls over the top. Andy Sullivan a 5, Lindsey Horan got a 4.
Yeah, I think Sullivan actually had a better game than she did against England. I think part of that is because the game was a little bit more situated to what she's good at, and she's not the, ball-seeking destroyer that Julie Ertz says. We've talked about this, but she was a little bit better at finding the space to disrupt Spain's attack when it had it. I mean, again, we talked about that first half where we were very, very good at keeping Spain in their own half, and Andy Sullivan was a big part of that. I thought that Rose was hit or miss tonight, and sometimes she has those games. She's had those games throughout her U.S. soccer career. I mean, that's just what happens sometimes with some creative players where they look really good at times and they look really passive at times, and I think she had one of her passive games. Horan, I don't know how Vlatko continues to play her all 90 minutes, and that's been a criticism I've had of him for a long time. Is I don't think she's performing to that level, and I don't think she's irreplaceable. I think she does a lot of the things that Vlatko wants his midfielders to do, and she does those very well, but she doesn't do them at the level that we need her to do them at. And I am concerned that my biggest concern is that Vlatko saw what happened against England and ran out that same midfield because it wasn't effective versus England, and shockingly, it wasn't that effective against Spain. Again, good possession numbers, better passing numbers this game, better pressing numbers, but at the end of the day, your midfield has to be creating chances, and they just didn't.
Forwards, Trinity Rodman, Megan Rapinoe, 4s, Sophia Smith a 3.
Yeah, I think Smith is I think the experiment of trying her at center forward failed this camp. She does it kind of for Portland. It's not a true number 9 striker type position. She does play centrally, but they don't play the same formation that the U.S. women do at Portland. So I think that's a little. It's unfair to expect that to transfer over the same way. But it was not good from Smith, and you're seeing missing Morgan and Macario, because it wasn't great from Hatch either. But that's I forget which rating you mentioned, but there was a point in time where you said like we kind of bypassed the midfield. Oh yeah, it was for Rose Lavelle's. I think.
Yeah, Rose
Lavelle. Bypassed the midfield because we were trying to get the ball to Ashley Hatch in the air. I don't know. It wasn't good from any of the forwards. Megan Rapinoe is not at the level she used to be at, which is fair. She's a lot older and also coming off some injuries as well. But yeah, there are major problems with the way that this team is set up technically, but I think more so from a formation standpoint, there are problems. When you have Lindsey Horan, who likes to sneak out wide, well, that makes sense why your attack is focused on going out wide and crossing the ball in, because that's what Lindsey Horan does from a midfield position. So that's a problem. But at the same time, and I know that Spain was missing 15 players. I'm aware of this.
Yes.
The U.S. was missing a lot of players who normally would be playing right now. And during camp, collected a lot of injuries that Vlatko, to his credit, just isn't going to push them when a lot of these players have a playoff match this weekend or next weekend. So I think it's also fair to kind of take what we saw on the field and go, this was bad, but give the context of these players have been mentally and emotionally strained the past month, really. Maybe even longer than that, let's be real honest. And there were a lot of problems with health in this camp. There's a reason Huerta wasn't able to play, all 90. Again, Emily Fox gets hurt. Those two have been very good on the outside back position, and it just hasn't. We don't have anyone behind him, which is a problem. Crystal Dunn didn't look great. I know that's sacrilegious to say, but she's also coming back from not playing for several months. So, to expect her to go back in and immediately be the great Crystal Dunn is a little unfair to her. So, yeah, I mean, I think that criticisms of Vlatko are very fair after this, but I think that everyone in this camp had a bad camp.
Also, looking at the subs quickly, Ashley Hatch, Alyssa Thompson had 5s. Ashley Sanchez, Sofia Huerta had 4s. Sam Coffey, Crystal Dunn had 3s.
Yeah, Coffey didn't have a good game.
Loss marks the WNT's first back-to-back defeats in which it conceded multiple goals since 2001. Crowd of just over 11,000 in Pamplona was the highest for a Spanish women's national team home match. You mentioned,
and that's positive.
Yeah, no question, especially with all the chaos that's going on there. You mentioned late in the match and those individuals that you'd like to see drag everybody else along to try to chase after an equalizer or getting back into a match. A two-part question: who is that individual, or who are those individuals now? And who should be those individuals now? Are we talking things that are mutually exclusive, or are you looking at folks that you think can take that next step and help drag the U.S. in these situations? Who?
Well, let's talk about 2 players who weren't on this roster: Alex Morgan, Katarina Macario. Those are 2 players, especially Morgan in the middle and Macario wherever she's playing, who could do that. They have the skill, they have the mentality to do that. But in this camp, it needed to be Rose Lavelle, and she just wasn't able to do it. And I think David was it David? Someone in the chat mentioned that maybe Burned, that it's just at this point she's not really in form, which sucks because she's still probably your best high ceiling midfielder, definitely one of your better creative midfielders, and she's just not playing super well right now for club or country. She hasn't had a super awesome season in WSL. It's been good, but not like fantastic. So yeah, I mean, I think Rose is the person who you want to do that. I mean, she had a very good 2019 World Cup. So did Lindsay Horan. I think Horan clearly is the person that Vlatko is expecting to do that, given the fact that she's playing so much, and she's not doing that either. But those are 2 central midfielders who, again, we've talked about time and time again, haven't been playing well together right now. And that's where the criticism of Vlatko, for me, really lies, is why do you keep running out the same midfield when it's not producing the results you need?
All right, so we've got, before we get into Twitch pitch for the remainder of the segment, because we have Dylan Butler coming up at 10 o'clock, Merritt Paulson. I wanted to get into that with you specifically because of his impact for Timbers and Thorns, what he has done to the game in the Pacific Northwest, and he announces yesterday that he is stepping away. It's another step in the incremental, and I'll go ahead and say it, the incremental eventual layout of Merritt Paulson with soccer in the Pacific Northwest. What did you think about what happened yesterday?
So I didn't get a chance to read the Timbers Army and Thorns supporters groups thing yet, but I think Merritt Paulson is not the right thing, but is moving toward the right thing. And I think it's very fair to ask him to not be a part of these franchises. I mean, I think, again, it's not just happening on the Thorns.
Right.
It's happening on the Timbers as well.
Yes.
And you and I have both talked about that, where it's not even the Andy Polo thing. There have been other issues on the Timber side of things. But the biggest problem for me is that there were very clear steps that he could have taken multiple times throughout the past 5 years, 10 years almost, to stop the problems before they got to the point where they are now. Remember, Paul Riley was under him. Didn't really do anything to stop that man from getting hired in the future. Gavin Wilkinson needed to be gone at different points throughout the saga. So the fact that he is taking a step back is good, because clearly he can't be trusted to make decisions that are going to A, protect his players, and B, make good decisions for his club. It's not my money, but if I were an NWSL owner, I would strongly want him out. But again, there's a lot of people who are afraid of change because they're afraid of the unknown.
And at the same time, it's something that you cannot do. You can't sit there. You can't do it immediately.
Right. Well, and that's the other part of this is I would like for him to have said, I'm going to put the team up for sale. Like our goal is to have the sale finalized by the end of the 2023 season, because this isn't going to happen overnight. He's not going to say, hey, I'm selling the team, or like, okay, cool, I sold the team to wherever.
Right.
That's just not going to happen, because that's not how sales of large businesses like this work. How long did it take for Deloy Hansen to A, be removed, and B, then find owners for RSL?
I think it was Deloy got removed, and I think it was an entire season where they were caretaker. The league was a caretaker of the
whole. Deloy probably was in a position where probably could have been removed earlier, but it was, hey, would you sell it? Would you sell it? Would you sell it? I understand why a very rich man doesn't want to sell one of his more important assets. I get that. And Merritt Paulson has been a good, I use good in a sense of like, he has helped soccer grow.
The growth of the game.
Yes.
He has been integral in that, specifically in the Pacific Northwest.
But this is the problem that, again, we're facing, is just because you did some good things for the overall sport, which is very valid toward Merritt Paulson, doesn't mean you're in a position now where we need to keep you. The sport has passed you. Thanks for helping make Portland a soccer town. I don't think that he did that specifically, but you know what I mean? Bringing the Timbers into MLS, bringing the Thorns to NWSL. But you're not running your business the way that it needs to be run. And I'm glad he took himself out of those decision-making capacities, but I still don't trust him as the owner of soccer teams, men's or women's. And that's the thing that, again, I'll continue to go back to, is he hasn't shown that he can protect his players or those around the club on either the men's or women's side.
All right. So for the remainder of the time, let's get into stuff. Burned. I know that's the official term. U.S. women's national team got passed by the top teams in Europe, not necessarily in terms of player quality, but definitely in terms of team setup and tactics. In other words, the coaching is inferior, plus the NWSL prevailing playing style doesn't help the players develop tactically.
So I definitely think that NWSL is a different style of play than you're going to see, especially in Europe. It is not a possession-oriented style of game. It is very transition and speed oriented. It is still very much focused on athleticism. And this is, again, where we talk about the setup and development of players in the US. We need to have more NWSL teams with actual women's academy structures. That would be the biggest thing that I would say after this is going forward, we need to have an emphasis on development for women's players at the younger ages within a professional system. But we still did this in 2019, right? If everything has changed in 4 years, then it's changed. Like, great, I'm glad that the sport has evolved past that. But like the 2019 team, it's not like they were playing with tactics that were not much different than what we were seeing now. And again, I will be the first to say that how many times did we criticize Jill Ellis for her tactics or lack of tactics or regressive tactics at many times where, we'd get a goal and then she just became a defensive, okay, great, win the ball, kick it long type coach. So I don't think Vlatko is that. I think Vlatko is trying to develop a little bit more similarly to the way that Berhalter does on the men's side. But we've seen both Berhalter and Vlatko systems devolve into get the ball wide and cross it in. So I think the issue that we're seeing is that the style of play doesn't translate at the international level. That's been my biggest takeaway from these types of things. And this is clearly something that, from a U.S. soccer standpoint, we're trying to play in this style of play that looks really pretty when you have the best players in the world playing it, which the U.S. should, in theory, have better players, the women's anyway.
Mhm.
But it's just not translating to success right now. And look, I'll also look, y'all. We're not gonna win everything. I would like for us to. Sometimes, yes, you need a wake-up call. But again, the fact that you had 3 World Cup finals in a row,
Mhm.
after not making World Cup finals 2 times in a row. The goal is to get back to that, but we also have to understand that players change from cycle to cycle, and that is true for everywhere in the world. Now, I think that there are tactical adjustments he needs to make, and I think there are formational or player adjustments he needs to make. But everyone's panicking, and I'm just not panicking because I think like momentary panic is going to get lost in the overall ecosystem of international women's soccer.
All right. So then let me ask you this. Coco was winning in 2019 the worst thing to happen to the women's national team.
I don't think winning a World Cup is ever a bad thing. So let's just put it that way. No, I think that it was the culmination of a fantastic generation of players. Again, that generation made 3 World Cups in a row. World Cup finals in a row. One they lost to Japan playing out of their mind at the best possible time ever, with a lot of momentum and spirit behind them. And he lost on penalty kicks.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe it was just a really good generation. And you're having a little dip because you're looking at girls like Smith and Pugh, who are in their mid-20s, who aren't producing the same on the national team level as they are at NWSL. Maybe it's because you have players like Rodman and Thompson, who are in the much younger age group that haven't come up yet. You know, I mean, it's unfair to expect 19-year-old Trinity Rodman to be the player who's going to save this U.S. women's national team right now. You know, I think that there are a lot of issues with the way that the team plays, for sure. But I think we are kind of stuck in a end of a generation trying to bring in a new generation type thing.
Did we wait too long for that transition to happen? Because it seems like you front loaded with a lot of veterans.
Right, but here's the problem, John. We want to blame Vlatko for everything. That's not a Vlatko issue.
Oh, I'm just saying. This was independent of Vlatko. I'm just asking.
Oh, I know, but that's the thing, is the narrative is blame Vlatko for everything, which is valid for what we're seeing on the field right now. But Jill Ellis was also heavily reliant on a lot of older players. Her debut, one of her debutants at the 2019 World Cup was Lynn Williams, who was 29.
Mm-hmm. No doubt. So Burns says this: the U.S. still has the best player pool, but the tactics are 10 years behind.
Yeah, and so that's where I kind of disagree that Vlatko's tactics specifically are years behind. I think that a lot of these players don't play the style of play that they do at their club level that Vlatko wants. Now, that said, we've criticized Lindsey Horan a lot. Lindsey Horan does that at Lyon. You know, that's what she does. I mean, she's a Champions League winner. We have 2 Champions League winners in our player pool. One of them obviously not healthy. So, you know. I think we need to look at NWSL more than we look at just Vlatko. But that's just me. But that's another thing that's coming out of this report is we're having men, I'm saying men, who have been playing soccer a specific way and coaching these women to do it this way. And maybe they're the ones responsible for stunting the tactical growth of women's players in this country because they're not teaching them to be tactically astute and better knowledgeable players. Maybe that's an issue too.
So, did you see this yesterday as a part and parcel? David,
Yeah.
shout out
Yep.
to Riley Jackson for 2 assists in the big win of the U17s.
Yeah. That was awesome. Good for Riley. Glad to see some representation from Georgia at the youth levels. She's been, I mean, hopefully she continues that because, again, as a lot of people have mentioned, we haven't won a U17 or U20 World Cup in a long time. And I agree with that. I don't put a whole lot of stock into youth World Cups. I'm sorry. I just don't. Now, that doesn't mean that we shouldn't be performing better at them. I absolutely agree with that. But if you want us to win a World Cup every single time we go out and play it, I think you're going to be sorely disappointed. Spain, I will reiterate, Spain has still yet to win a knockout game of a senior international competition. So talk to me. You got all these youth World Cups. Can't get past the round 16 or quarterfinals, whichever one, at a Euro or World Cup. So,
well, thanks for coming on back-to-back days.
Of course. Glad you asked me on back-to-back days. I can't wait to come on and talk Atlanta United and as we talk about this post-mortem of the season that has been.
It's hey, we got plenty of time, plenty to talk about, and you'll be a part of it. At Bartimus Prime 19, at Soccer for US POD. Bart, as always, thanks a lot for hanging out, my friend. We will catch up with you soon.
Thanks, John. Thanks, everyone.
All right, so we're tagging out, and so since it is the top of the hour, that means that I have to go back into my branding elements and run this intro for this guy. Beat 2, 3, 4. Dylan Butler, it is time for Wednesdays with Dylan. And as always, my first question for you was, how was your high school weekend, sir?
It was good. It was good. Friday night game, Saturday afternoon game. Saturday was the homecoming game, so those were always a lot of fun, big crowds. The games weren't as competitive as I would have hoped. You know, you do all your prep and you're hoping for a big game. In fact, the second game, which was a backyard brawl between Bethpage and Plain Edge, was 42-0 at the half.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so but it was running time. They have running time in New York for those instances. So I
was going to say, do you have running clock at north of 40 in the second half and north of 30 in the fourth quarter?
It's actually just 35 whenever, I think.
Okay. Because down here in this part of the world, it is 40 if the coaches agree at halftime. And then it is 30 or north regardless. The coaches do not have to agree in the fourth quarter for it to be a running clock. And yeah, I've had my share of those too. So I know exactly what running clock is. And you're sitting there going, great, I only have to fill for 12 minutes.
But also you're doing it with a lot of guys maybe you didn't necessarily have prep for. So that's always
true. And that's where you hope that the roster that you have is accurate with names and numbers all the way down to your underclassmen. So you can sit there and have your pronouncers right and have all the mamas be, proud that their underclassmen's getting mentioned. All of those things. I know of which you speak, sir.
But it was funny. I had all of my worlds sort of converge on the weekend because I had my high school football broadcast Friday night, Saturday. Sunday morning early, I was out at Hofstra University for some fall ball lacrosse, women's lacrosse. So I was doing some stuff there for USA Lacrosse Magazine. And then I hightailed it home for decision day. So I had my soccer, my high school football, and my lacrosse all together.
Okay.
Potpourri.
Since you have transitioned excellently, as you always do, when you hang out with us on Wednesdays, your takeaways from decision day, and I know that we had match chaos in the East with Orlando and Columbus, and we'll get into that story in a little bit, but from 30,000 feet, takeaways from decision day.
I was disappointed. It wasn't as chaotic as I would have hoped it would be, because a few of those games were kind of not necessarily decided, but certainly like, look, the race for the top of the East, that was done in like 30 minutes, right? Like Philly as long as Philly won, and they were already up like 2-0 pretty quickly. So, that one sort of wasn't interesting. And then it was Wednesday's games, took away a little bit of the chaotic nature of decision day, because then you had Miami already clinch, and Charlotte then being knocked out, right? So it came down to Orlando Columbus, which delivered, no doubt.
Mm-hmm.
But then in the West, both of the games that I did get wrong did not, again, it wasn't really contested, right? Like, you didn't have that Jameer Krylak stoppage time disputed winner, right? Like, it was pretty much done and dusted early. So it was, in that sense, it for me, decision day left a lot to be desired. The Golden Boot race suddenly became interesting with Gazdag doing what he did, but even there, like, he fell a goal short. You don't expect him to get 4 in the day. So
no. But then after match chaos in the East, we had our first firing of the postseason. Now, and I mentioned this back on Monday, I had a gut feeling that the loser of that game was probably going to lose their job. And I ended up not being wrong, that the loser of that game was who bet his house, apparently, on making the postseason at the beginning of the year. So Caleb Porter is now looking for both a job and, I guess, a house.
Yeah. And it was actually, I'll take you guys inside this. It was interesting. So I was on that post-match press conference Zoom call, and I actually had the first question. Didn't expect it, but I had the first question. So, I asked them, I said, I know it just ended, but, and maybe you haven't been able to take a deeper dive into it, but the 24 points dropped from winning positions, I'd imagine is that kind of what you're looking at as to why you didn't make the playoffs again? And he's, he was bluntly honest. He said, Dylan, 100%. He said, this game, the Orlando game, he called a microcosm of the entire season. He called it a recurring nightmare, because it was, right. Like, and this is why I don't think you can't watch soccer just about like the other metrics, right? Because all the metrics tilted for Columbus in that game, right? Like, Orlando, let's be honest, they were terrible for an hour.
Yes, they were.
Right? They were booed off the pitch at halftime. Columbus took the game to them. Derek Etienne scores the early goal. What was missing in this game and so many other games for Columbus was that dagger, that second goal, right? Like the killer goal. You keep an Orlando in it, and then suddenly, really kind of out of nowhere, they get the equalizer, and that's where Porter said the game changed. And obviously, you get the PK at the end as well. But on that call, it was difficult to be on, because you could see him, and I don't think he was told yet, right? Because I think he's so honest. I think he would have said, I just got fired, right? But like, he was saying, like, look, there's blame to be shared, but I'm the guy. The buck stops with me. I've got a year left on my contract, but futures are going to be decided, mine included, probably. He said so. He said it just wasn't good enough. He said he loved the club. He was hoping he could finish out, but and then he literally just ended it with just saying sorry. And in that moment, we joke around on the show and other opportunities, and pick at people, but you feel for a guy in that moment, because he did. You could say what you will about him, and maybe you could say he's arrogant, right? But in that moment, you kind of feel for him, right? Because he's being human. He's hurt. He's broken down. Realizing probably he's at the end, and sure enough, less than 24 hours later, the word comes down that he's out.
And you look at that, and you look at the playoff picture, and we know what the matchups are going to be, and we'll get into that toward the end here to get your early window into Dylan's playoff predictions, and we'll put that in like a neon sign or something above the marquee. Dylan's playoff predictions. The other news that came out has been kind of still a part of the trickle of everything with NWSL and Major League Soccer, and now Merritt Paulson announced yesterday that he's stepping away. It's another piece of the incremental element of Merritt Paulson stepping away from owning Timbers and Thorns. It was just the next stage in this, and that went down yesterday.
Yeah, and just before that, right, Gavin Wilkinson as well was out. Yes, it's we deal so much with the sporting side of things and teams and wins and losses and how teams look. And this one, you can't even begin to guess what the Timbers will look like next year, because we don't know what they'll look like above the sporting side, right? Like, this is still a very fluid situation. So yeah, I mean, it needed to be done.
Mm-hmm.
I give Merritt Paulson credit for doing that. The arguments would be made that they and rightfully so, I think, acted way too slow in this situation, right? Like, this has been going on for more than a year.
Yeah.
Their own fan base has put out signs, right? Like, during the games about Wilkinson out and so, it was the right thing to do, just a little bit too late, or later than a lot of people hope for.
Yeah, because, I mean, last time we had something like this with the Deloy Hansen situation, and we mentioned it briefly with Bart Keeler before you came on, the league were stewards for a year and trying to find that right owner and trying to make sure that everything for both Royals and RSL could still function as a franchise. I mean, this is a multi-million-dollar thing that you're looking at here, and you can't just have an immediate step away. It's like, nope, I'm selling, I'm out. It has to be done the right way so you don't damage what has been built in the infrastructure of soccer in the Pacific Northwest. I'm not talking front office. I'm talking specifically Timbers and what they've done, Thorns and what they've done, and the infrastructure of everything else that has been a part of what Paulson has been part and parcel to. It can't just be an immediate step away. Although, yes, it was the right thing to do. Yes, Wilkinson, Golub, and Paulson should all be out the door, but it's not something that you can just sit there and flip a light switch and go, yep, okay, we're on to the next stage here.
And that's the interesting thing, right? Because you would say both organizations are what everybody else, just about everyone else in both leagues want to be, right? Like, they get their 20,000 plus. I mean, and the Thorns do as well, right? Massive crowds.
Yep.
They are, the biggest things in that city. And that's where it's going to be really tricky, going forward, right? Because it's different, I think, than the Salt Lake situation, because look, the Timbers and the Thorns are bigger.
Mm-hmm.
Let's be honest, right? Like, so, there's been so many years, and even before the MLS Timbers, there's just been such an amazing soccer culture. You don't want to do more to damage that,
right?
So it's very, like, you're walking on eggshells going forward, I think.
Yep. All right. And so Coco in the Twitch pitch this morning wanted to get your thoughts about a topic that we have discussed here quite some time, close to your heart geographically as well, because of how you'd like to have things, laid out for you.
Yep.
Ferran Soriano, CEO of City Football Group, says, quote, "We are very close to announcing where we're going to build a stadium," end quote, for NYCFC. That came out yesterday. Soriano says he's hopeful the team will be able to announce an update by the end of the calendar year.
Great. I mean, like, it's look, it's a very frustrated fan base. I think it's been clear that Yankee Stadium, that I've likened it in the past to sort of like you go to your buddy's house, right, and you're like, mind if I can I just stay here for like a couple days?
Yeah.
It's like, no problem, man. We got the spare room. It's all good. You can hang out. And then suddenly 7 years later, you're like, dude, when are you getting out of here? Like,
what was the Owen Wilson movie?
I think I just saw that the other day too.
That's you, me, and Dupree.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is that NYCFC is the professional soccer version of you, me, and Dupree.
Pretty much. And the Yankee Stadium, I think that that marriage has long been dissolved. And then they've been nomads, obviously, and it's been never more evident than this week, right, where you cannot play at Yankee Stadium. You were at Red Bull Arena because you couldn't play at Citi Field. Now you're back at Citi Field. Like, that's and you got less than a week now to tell all your fans, if you weren't going to go to New Jersey, come to Flushing now. Like, it's.
And the MLS soccer website still has them playing at Red Bull.
Correct. And maybe they still will. No, no, they're at Citi Field.
Don't encourage, sir.
Yeah, seriously. So listen, any news, any definitive news is exactly what the NYCFC fans want. It's been so slow, this whole process. It will not go faster, because again, you'll have an announcement of a site, then you're waiting for the groundbreaking, and then you're waiting for the build, and so we're still not anywhere. NYCFC fans, rightfully so, want that stadium ready for the first kick next year. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen for a few years, unfortunately.
Yeah. Going back to July when we were talking about it, Mayor Eric Adams had approved an NYCFC stadium for Queens. That was, according to quote sources, end quote. And that was the last we'd heard about.
Now you wonder too, this will be interesting, right? Like, so if they announce that site to be around Citi Field, mm-hmm. right? Maybe will NYCFC work out a deal with the Mets and put all of their home games at Citi Field next year and make that their hub? Because it would be, from a business standpoint, that would be wise, right? Because you want your fans to get used to getting to that place. Have your establishments that you want to hit before the game. Do your tailgating, whatever it is. Like, you want them to feel very comfortable around where your full stadium, where your home will be, right? So I think that might be a wise bit of business if that's the case.
Yep. All right. So we have the 6 matches, 2 on the 15th, 2 on the 16th, 2 on the 17th, and it's interesting timing, especially on the 16th, where, last time I checked, you're looking at a calendar and it's 2 on Monday, which is.
I'm not going to ask you where you pulled that calendar out from.
Just right next to the desk, because I can't have it. I can't have it on my, I can't have it on my desk because I have camera plus desktop, I have laptop, and then I have second laptop. And so I can't have this pinned in underneath everything. And so here's your October assignments. And I just have it off to my side down here on the table. And it is one of 4 calendars that I have to reference at any given time, because here's number 2.
This is my calendar.
See, that's number 4 for me. That's the 4th one I have to reference because I have to figure out how to get there. This is done old school news style writing, like we used to have the scripts and you cut it, you go down
Yep.
the half. All of the show times and everything here and all the guests, because if you go down right there, it says Dylan 10A Wednesday. In the Wednesday section, Dylan 10A. And that's number 2. Number 3 is attached to the fridge where the boss and I have our travel plans, and we go like this. And then number 4 is the one on the Google Calendar.
We have others in the house, but I only reference my phone.
Yeah, see, I got to go. That's 4th one for me. I have, since I spend most of my time here anchored here, I've got to have 1 or 2 close by. Interesting that you've got 2 on Monday night going up against Monday Night Football. So you have Monday Night Football and Monday Night Football. Red Bull Cincinnati at noon. Then you've got LA and Nashville at 3. Then Sunday, actually, let's just take it a day at a time. Red Bull Cincinnati to start things off at noon on Saturday, going up against college football. Red Bulls right now at a -110.
Now, first of all, just to cut, I mean, they're going to go against football regardless.
True.
Right? Like Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Like, I like that MLS is doing that in the sense of, not that they're saying, we're better than football or bigger than football, but don't kowtow, right? Like, don't then have your game on a Tuesday at 5 or something because nothing else is happening.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, have your games. I love that you've got 2 each day. So you get your early game, you get your late game, East Coast, West Coast. Like I like the way that it's set up. Like I don't have, if you're an FC Cincinnati fan, you've been waiting forever.
Yeah.
And you're a Cincinnati Bearcat fan, well then you'll deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Normal TV 12:08 kick with Red Bull and Cincinnati. What do you see?
I see the first. I see the likelihood of an upset here. I see
okay.
Cincinnati. I see Cincinnati because it's funny, right? Because I was on. I know your listeners check in on me on other spots as well.
Yes, they do.
I was on with Jason Davis, and I mentioned this to him as well on Sirius XM FC. But Cincinnati has the same amount of road wins as the Red Bulls have home wins, right? So that's one. I think you need that guy in the playoffs to score your goals, right? Like, or guys. And Cincinnati has that. You can look at 3 different players between Lucho, Acosta, Brenner, and Brandon Vasquez and feel pretty confident that you'll get a goal or 2 from those guys.
Right.
The Red Bulls do not have that guy, right? Like you did get a brace on against Charlotte. Fair enough. But there's been that revolving door at the striker position since Bradley Wright Phillips is retired, right? Or just not re-signed. He went to LAFC, obviously, then he retired. But so that's one thing. Now I'm not sold on Cincinnati's defense.
No.
I don't think they mind. It'll be a rock fight.
No.
And yeah, I don't, I don't have a ton of confidence in the Red Bulls because they don't have that guy, and they don't really have anyone consistently who, I would say, outside of Lewis Morgan. I think Lewis Morgan's been the most consistent scoring threat. I don't think they've had that, and also I feel like their ethos is about defending and being hard to play against.
Yeah.
But I think there's been cracks in that of late. They haven't looked as good defensively. Carlos Coronel has not been what he was a year ago. So yeah, I see Cincinnati. It's a mild one for me. I don't know. I don't look at the odds like you do. I stay away from that angle of things, but I can't imagine Cincinnati's a big underdog in this game.
Let's see. Let me go back to the numbers really quickly, and I will go by. I have a composite that I consult. Our buddies at Odds Portal, who need to really sponsor this show, they have a composite of about 12 to 15 different juice box purveyors. Red Bulls in the composite are a -106. FC Cincinnati's a +275. So that's how it's looking right now. Obviously, things can change as we get later in the week. Back into the doubleheader Saturday, 3:00. LAG and Nashville odds are basically the same, but that's an interesting one for me.
I think when I looked at all of the first round matchups, this was the one I was most excited about because exactly what you said, right? Like you've got you've got the on one side in Nashville. You've got that team that's obviously has the defensive solidity. They've got the playoff pedigree now that, they've done this now for a couple years in a row. They've got the Golden Boot winner, who's likely going to be the MVP winner. He received my vote and Hani Mukhtar.
Okay.
And then, but then you've got an LA team that's red hot, right? Like you've got a Chicharito who's scoring goals, and you've got that midfield now that you didn't have throughout the year, with Puig and Brugman. Super intrigued about this game, because here's a problem here. So here's the thing, like I think it's what we do in our business is like you want to project ahead and then get excited about that next round, right? So I think I'm excited more about the possibility of Cincy Philly because of the whole Noonan and Albright and
True.
Philly and that whole aspect of it.
Yeah.
Then and plus that game could be 7-6, right? Like that could be crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Less so than Red Bull Philly. I've seen that before. We've been there and done that.
Yeah, you want a rock fight? That's a rock fight.
And then to this one, like, and I know we're gonna be so disappointed by this, but I want that Trafico game again, right?
See, you and I are
wanting it so much, it's not going to happen.
I know. See, you and I just want it so we can continue to say El Trafico. Jason has been one to hate the El Trafico moniker. I love it, considering
I agree. I'm with you. But because again, I love every one of those games, and you look back to the only playoff game, right, where it's Vela and Zlatan, and this time it would be Vela and Chicharito, and it would be amazing. It would be amazing. But LA have to get the job done against Nashville. That's not going to be easy, obviously. Now, LA's gotten the job done against Nashville in the regular season. They won and they drew. So Nashville hasn't beaten them. But I'm not sold. I'm not sold on LA in still defensively. And God help him if this goes on La PKs. That could get ugly.
Composite over under at 4.5 is a plus 432. As an example as to what they think about that. They think that this game's going to be in that 2 to 3 goal range. I think they're wrong. I think that this one, you got to take the over in a situation like this. 3.5.
I think if it goes over, you probably have to say the edge goes to LA, right?
Yeah. 3.5 is a plus 188 in the composite. 4.5 is a plus 432. I will take the over in that one and run. A couple minutes left with you because I know that you have like coffee and actual work things to do instead of hanging out with us here. There you go. So who's the mug this morning? Oh, you went back to your pinstripes. Okay. All right. All right. Austin, favorite at home, big favorite, minus 115. Montreal's an even bigger favorite at home on Sunday at a minus 125. NYC's an even larger favorite at, we think, Citi Field at a minus 155. And then Dallas is on the plus.
Jorge Mas is not happy about that. Did you see that? That's
No.
Yeah, he was saying he tweeted something about if it was when there was still talk of it being switched to Citi Field, and he said something that they were going to fight it, that if they were going to move to a baseball stadium instead of a proper soccer pitch, that's not even their own state. Like he was very, very salty about it. So.
But then you just need David Beckham to talk about it and say how upset he is not playing on a proper pitch and all those kinds of things, correct?
Wow, that hurt.
That was your Beckham?
That was try. Well, it was on short notice. You have to give me some time. Our Nick Alifi over at Soccer over there has a better Beckham than I do, but that was, like I said, that was a short notice jump out for that. When you look at these other 4 games, who do you see that could stumble in these other 4? Anybody, or are you looking at chalk?
All right, let's see. So we go. So the first one, what is on Sunday? Is Montreal?
Austin RSL.
Yeah. Could there be some magic there for RSL? I would say maybe for me that might be the only one, only because. But I can't give you any technical or tactical reasons for that.
I just think that
it's magic in the air.
Well, but I think that Pablo Mastroeni, you get him into the playoffs, and he wants to turn it into a rock fight. He knows that it's about getting through that 90 minutes, and if the ball has cooties, so be it. I don't want to touch it. I'm going to send it long. I'm going to sit there and press. I'm going to create a short
game. They were the team that won a playoff game without a shot on goal.
Yes.
So
yes.
I give them a puncher's chance, no doubt. I love Montreal at home.
Mhm.
I love them anyway. I think I I think I think a Eastern Conference final, really kind of with any of the three of an NYCFC, Montreal, Philly, like any grouping of that is awesome. And also, just again for Team Chaos, I would love to see MLS Cup at Stade Saputo. Like,
Oh,
let's
that'd be
get that done.
great. Hey, look, I mean, I think Montreal gets out of the East. I'll say it right here. I think Montreal gets out of the East. They are your representative of the Eastern Conference that makes it to MLS Cup. And I would love to see it. Then the question is, do you play it at Stade Saputo or do you move it next door to the Big O?
They've just said now, I think they're done with the Big O.
Cool, even better. That's going to be, if it's at Stade Saputo, it's going to be a hell of an
No,
atmosphere.
yeah.
I mean, that to me, but yeah, I've got Montreal making it out of the East. And I think that the first team that is very physical with LAFC will knock LAFC out of the playoffs. I think that we've seen in the past when it comes to the physicality, somebody wants to come up, bump Carlos Vela, knock him around, and, take it right to that limit before you start get fouls and cards. That's the one thing. I think that Vela.
And I think Nashville will obviously do that. They've done it.
Yeah.
Right. In the past. And that's what is intriguing here is if it is the Galaxy that win that game, that was the knock on them from their head coach, right? Like that we weren't tough enough. Greg Vanney said that after they got knocked out by Sacramento Republic in the Open Cup, that his team was soft. Now that was obviously several months ago, but I think that if it is El Tráfico again, I think that, that could be interesting, right? Like, I think obviously just playoff soccer games in general are obviously a lot more physical, but yeah, they've got to bring that to them. And you wonder now too if Cherundolo, right? He's certainly had a career of playing in some tough soccer games and tough tackles and things of that nature. So you wonder then if if they get a little tougher heading into their game as well. Again, it's not as long of a break as it was last year, like for the Revs and Colorado. But remember, top seeds don't fare very well in this tournament.
No,
Supporter Shield winners do not fare very well in this tournament.
That is absolutely accurate and true. Okay, your allotted time is up, and I'm going to send you on the rest of your day. What is going on with you at MLS Soccer and at OSDB?
Playoffs, right? So we're diving into that, obviously. And for OSDB, I think I'm going to take a look at what I think is a brilliant concept. That new they just announced it yesterday, the soccer tournament.
Yes,
the small side game. I think that's amazing. That's such a great idea.
7-on-7.
Clint Dempsey's obviously involved as well. So I'll have a little bit of a piece on that on OSDB Sports.
And what's your football game this weekend?
Yeah, I got Friday night. I'm out at St. Anthony's, top-ranked team in New York State. Their homecoming, they take on Fordham Prep. Expect St. Anthony's to win that game, but that should be fun. It was actually funny. I was trying to think back. I'm like, when did they last play? Because these two teams don't play each other every year. It was 2010.
Wow.
In the semifinals, and I was there covering it. They were both 9-0 at the time. It's a different landscape now, but you get those flashbacks, of that game. So that was pretty cool that I was there that game, and I'll be there on the call this Friday. And then no game Saturday because I got the playoffs. So.
Okay, and so for folks that want to see if they can find a way to their favorite VPN to watch you on Friday, how do they do it?
Yeah, I mean, you could either go to Varsity Media on YouTube,
okay,
and hit subscribe, and you could watch the game there, or we have a collaboration with the Yes Network app, so we are on the Yes app as well. So obviously the Yankees are playing, but they're not on the Yes, right? So, if you want to go to the Yes app, it's not Brooklyn Nets season yet. NYCFC, they're now on national television as well. So we are, you get your live sports with us on the Yes app.
Yes, and you can go back and see the North Shore at Seaford game from 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, you don't watch that game.
No? Okay. It's because it was 2 hours and 6 minutes, and as I continue to work my way
Yeah.
back.
I wasn't on the game. If you want to find me, I'm on the game.
There we go. Okay. So, yeah. So,
I
varsity.
was on Farmingdale, Freeport. I was on Bethpage, Plain Edge. What else was I on? I don't know. A few different games. You'll see.
Okay. Well, so just look for high school football on Varsity Media, which I have now subscribed to, and I am now one of the 21,600 subscribers on the YouTube.
Nice.
So, well, yeah, you got to look out for everybody who's part of the familia. You know, we see how that works. All right, get out of here, and we'll catch up with you next week after round one.
All right, buddy.
Dylan Butler from a bunch of different places: MLSsoccer.com, OSDB Sports, Varsity Media on the YouTube. And you can catch up with him through the Yes app as he's calling high school football, close to all of our hearts here when it comes to everything going on in the world of high school sports. Coco's asking, so am I hitting the hard stuff because I said Montreal makes it out of the East? Let me know about that. And then, no, you can't play on that Big O turf. And I will say this, story time with John. When I went to the Big O, I went there for the last season of the Montreal Expos. And when I worked in local television, went up and did a story on Michael Barrett. For those of you who are listening or watching out of the Atlanta area, Michael Barrett played at Pace Academy, #1 draft pick with the Montreal Expos. It was a catcher there, and it was cool to see Michael get his cup of coffee in Major League Baseball. And so I go in and I'm shooting a feature on Barrett, and I'm like shooting things above the locker level in the locker room there inside the Big O. And one of the clubhouse attendants yelled at me like nobody's business. He was like, "Don't shoot that!" It's like I was shooting like helmets and coffee cups that were above the lockers. And so this clubhouse attendant's going nuts that I'm shooting things above lockers that I shouldn't, apparently. And I still have somewhere in my stacks, I still have tickets to the final home game at the Big O for the Montreal Expos before they left town. And I have them in a folder, and they've never been creased or anything like that. I still have like half a dozen outfield seats tickets to the final home game there at the Big O for the Montreal Expos. And also, it was one of the rare places that you could go, and I took a lap when I was doing the story. I took a lap inside the concourse at the Big O. People were actually smoking inside the stadium, literally outside. The way that, if you remember the outfield seats, they had their own element, and it looked like a pretty decent outfield seats. But then you go behind those outfield seats toward the back of the stadium, which would be the south end, I think. And literally there were folks smoking inside the stadium. They weren't outside. They were inside the stadium smoking. And that's one of the few places I've ever seen folks smoking inside a stadium in open air. And so that was part of that whole thing. Coco says, might lose my Five Stripes membership for this. I think Philly makes it out of the East. I think Philly's been fading late in the year. I think they get found out. And I think Montreal makes it out of the East. Mountain Dew originally created to go into alcohol to make cocktails. So which is yours of choice? I don't drink alcohol. I just don't. And when I did, oh, excuse me. Trying to think what it was. I would drink like White Russians, Long Island iced teas, those kinds of things. That's what I would drink. But I have not had alcohol in a long time. I just don't. I've never. I would much rather prefer to be everybody's designated driver more than anything else. And I would just want to make sure that everybody gets home safely. So I'll be the DD, no problems. And so it's been a very, very long time since I've had anything involving alcohol. Great to have Dylan. Great to have Bart. And great to have you. So let's get into the matches of the day, viewing habits, and all that kind of stuff before we go. All right. So obviously right now we've got stuff going on in Europe. The Youth League is going on. That was early this morning. You've got Middle East, North Africa, Eastern Europe going on right now for the remainder of the morning. Let's see if we can see what's going on in the Champions League, that will start things off at 12:45. Napoli and Ajax. Napoli's a minus 152. Ajax a plus 375. Your draws a plus 346. Atletico Madrid, big favorite at home at a minus 213 against Club Brugge. Aldosivi and Bonfield is at a 1 o'clock start down in Argentina. Bonfield a plus 158 on the road. Aldosivi's a plus 183, and your draws a plus 214. Lower divisions in Europe are going on all throughout the afternoon. Action in the championship. And it looks like news out of the EFL, they might be getting away with not having any matches being shown in that famed 3 o'clock window. So we might actually get 10 o'clock matches being shown by the EFL. So that came out this morning. We'll keep an eye on that. Bristol City and Preston North End. Bristol City's a favorite at home at a plus 143. 3 o'clock Champions League, the other 6 matches. Liverpool, a big favorite at a minus 227 at Rangers. Victoria Pilsen, a big underdog at home. Bayern Munich, a minus 500. Barca, big favorite at home at a minus 196 against Inter. Spurs, a big favorite at home against Eintracht Frankfurt at a minus 208. Bayer Leverkusen, a favorite at home at a plus 114 against Porto. Sporting, a plus 124 as Marseille visits at a plus 225. Argentina also in the Liga Profesional Gimnasia at a plus 147 against San Lorenzo. And Boca Juniors, a plus 117 at Sarmiento Junín. Both of those are at 330. Independiente Barraca Central is at 6. Independiente's on the minus side at a minus 108. You have South America action going on as well. You've got a busy night in USL Championship. Everybody's getting caught up to match week 33. Tampa Bay, big favorite at home against El Paso Locomotive at a minus 164. Birmingham at Protective against the Boys in Blue, Indy 11 at a minus 256. Liga MX is back at it with the Ligia at 806. Club America minus 108 against Puebla at home at a plus 283. River Plate and Platense at 830. So this is a very busy night for soccer. River Plate minus 278 at 830. FC Tulsa Monterey Bay. This was the match that was postponed because of the investigation that was going on. We forgot to mention yesterday. The USL Championship has suspended Lawrence Wyke from Tampa Bay for 12 matches for his actions that they deemed inappropriate. I don't have the wording in front of me, but what he is reported to have said after the match in a scrum was investigated, and so the USL Championship has suspended Lawrence Wyke for 12 matches. Tampa Bay says they're going to appeal. They are appealing. So we'll see what's up with Lawrence Wyke over the next little bit. But Monterey Bay on the road needs these points. They need to win out and get some help to get it in the West. FC Tulsa is a minus 101. Monterey Bay is a plus 209. New Mexico United hosting Los Dos. Los Dos out of the playoffs thanks to Atlanta United 2 on the weekend. New Mexico United needs the win at a minus 154 at the Lab. Los Dos are a plus 317. And Liga MX at 806. 1006. Cruz Azul, a home dog against Monterrey. Monterrey's a plus 136, and Cruz Azul is a plus 209. Getting into what happened yesterday, Champions League, some really wild and interesting stuff that happened yesterday. Results, you had a red card for Manchester City, so they only got out of the match with Copenhagen with a goalless draw at a plus 807. Chelsea won 2-0. RB Leipzig won 2-0. 4 draws, Zagreb, Salzburg, Dortmund, Sevilla, PSG, and Benfica was a plus 374 at the Stade at the Parc des Princes. Shakhtar Donetsk get a plus 370, got the draw against Real Madrid. Maccabi Haifa, big win for them at a plus 373 against Juve. So let's get into the standings and see how things are with that. The group stage, half of the groups are finished with match week 4. So let's work backward. Group H, PSG and Benfica each have 8 points. Juve and Maccabi Haifa each have 3 with 2 games left to go. Group G, Manchester City, 10 points. Dortmund, 7 points. Sevilla and FC Copenhagen each have 2 with 2 matches to go. Group F, Real Madrid, 10 points. RB Leipzig, 6 points. Shakhtar is with 5 right now. Celtic at 1 point. They've given up 9 goals in 4 matches. Group E is the only other one that has 4 matches played. And it's still going to be a while before this one's decided. All the teams are separated by 3 points. Chelsea with 7, Salzburg with 6, AC Milan, Dinamo Zagreb have 4 points. Zagreb is behind on goals scored right now with minus. They've only scored 3 goals, and AC Milan has scored 4. So that's where we are right now with that. So today, going into play, Group A, Napoli with 9 points, Liverpool with 6, Ajax with 3, Rangers has not scored a goal in the competition. Group B, Bruges up top with 9 points over Porto, Leverkusen, Atletico Madrid. They each have 3 points. Group C, Bayern Munich at 9 points. They've won all 3. They've not given up a goal. Inter's at 6, Barca's at 3. Barca's at 3 points. They've got to get something done in these final 3 match weeks. And Victoria Pilsen, we figured they would be the one that would be determining who goes on and who goes to Europa League. Victoria Pilsen scored only once in 3 matches. They've given up 12. Group D, Sporting is at 6 points. Tottenham is at 4. Eintracht Frankfurt at 4. Marseille is at 3. So still a lot to be decided for here in the group stage of the Champions League. So let's get into where you can watch everything. And odds are it's going to be a lot of Paramount Plus, and it's going to be a lot of 2 to NA and Unimas. FS2 right now has Spain and Colombia in the U17 Women's World Cup. 2 to NA has Napoli, Ajax, Barca, Inter, and they also have the Liga MX doubleheader at 7 and 10. Unimas has the simulcast of Napoli, Ajax, Univision, Barca, and Inter at 3. Cruz Azul Monterrey is the simulcast for them at 10. Universo is your simulcast for the U17 Women's World Cup. Spanish, college soccer, B1G Plus at 7. Lower divisions in Spain at 12:20 on ESPN Plus. A lot of men's soccer starting at 2. A lot of women's soccer starting at noon. USL Championship with their 2 matches at 7:30 and 8. Flow FC has their college soccer starting at 2 and goes all the way into the evening. Paramount Plus is where you can find all of your Champions League action. No surprise, VIX and VIX Plus with all of the Champions League action there as well. And they also have the simulcast of Cruz Azul and Monterrey at 10 o'clock. Let's get into gossip, rumor, and innuendo before we go. Looking at today's gossip, it looks like it is Kylian Mbappe, and this is from the Telegraph. So Kylian Mbappe will cost between 300 and 350 million euro if any club wants to buy him, although PSG have no intention of selling him after reports arose that he wants to leave in January. Manchester City striker Erling Haaland, a $200 million release clause kicks in from summer of 2024. Pep says that Haaland did not have one for Real Madrid or any other team, but the clause applies to any club outside England. Spurs forward and captain Harry Kane focused on speculation he could focused on Spurs amid speculation he could leave for Bayern. Spurs are keeping an eye on Ivan Toney. Spurs having regularly watched him. Chelsea opened talks with Mason Mount over a new contract. They want to terminate the loan of Denis Zakaria from Juve in January. Also ready to listen to offers for Hakim Ziyech. Brazil center back Thiago Silva says his family will have a say on whether he extends his contract at Chelsea. Current deal expires at the end of this season. PSG interested in signing Rafael Leao, as everybody is, as a replacement for Messi and Mbappe, reportedly both set to leave. Leao also getting interest from Chelsea. Juve want to sign Diogo Dalot from Manchester United, with the 23-year-old keen to leave Old Trafford. That's from Calcio Mercato. Barcelona intend to sell Samuel Umtiti in the summer, currently on loan at Lecce. Man U, Newcastle, and Leeds all interested in signing Rangers 18-year-old defender Leon King, who's contracted for another 18 months. PSG sporting advisor Luis Campos only joined the club in June, but could be set to leave the Ligue 1 champs. That's from Le Parisien. Sir Jim Ratcliffe said he would have bought Manchester United in the summer, but the Glazers family wouldn't sell. They weren't interested in selling. And Jim Ratcliffe basically has moved on. That's from the Financial Times. Nottingham Forest sacked 2 senior recruitment figures, George Sirianos and Andy Scott, following an inquest into the club's summer spending. And Wigan boss Liam Richardson is in the frame to become West Brom's new manager after the baggy sacked Steve Bruce after less than a year on the job. And if you look at the bottom of the standings in the championship, you see a lot of teams that spent some time in the Premier League and have not recovered. Looking at the standings, we'll go from the bottom up just as a bit of another piece of news. Huddersfield, West Brom, both in the relegation zone. Middlesbrough just outside of it. Hull just outside of it. Blackpool, Stoke, Birmingham, Watford, takes you from 13 to 24. That's the bottom half, and that's a lot of old Premier League sides that have yet to figure out how to recover from not being in the Premier League. Some of the same folks still up top. Sheffield United, Norwich, if the season ended today, they would be in the automatic promotion spots. QPR, Burnley, Reading, and Swansea, with Blackburn right there, are in your positions of getting into the promotion playoff. Interesting note, Preston North End, who's playing today, they've only scored 7 goals this year in 13 matches. They've only given up 6. So I guess they're trying to figure out how they can win a lot of games 1-0 and get their way up the table. So interesting stuff there from Preston North End. They've drawn 7 of their 13. But right now, they're only 2 points out of the playoff. Right now, they're in 8th place with the 3, 4, 5, and the 6 making it to the playoffs. But we're still only like the quarter pole. I'll see. Checking really quickly. Giovan Bronkhorst says that we have to be brave against Liverpool to keep their championship hopes alive. Let's see. Trent Alexander-Arnold, Joel Matip to miss both the Rangers and Man City matches. Luis Diaz is out until after the World Cup. So keep an eye on that if you are a fan of Liverpool. Checking other papers really quickly, avoiding the 3 and the 4-letter papers before we go. We mentioned yesterday Julian Lopetegui not being he said he regretfully declined being the new manager at Wolves. So Nottingham Forest, we talked about their side here because Nottingham Forest spent £150 million in the summer, and you see where they are in the standings. Also, Jude Bellingham from the Daily Mirror had been told Arsenal could end up being a more attractive club to join than Liverpool by the time the summer transfer window rolls around. Further Premier League fixtures could be at risk after it was announced that the coronation for King Charles will take place on Saturday, May the 6th of 2023. So we'll keep an eye on that too. FIFA will distribute, according to The Independent, more than $200 million to clubs whose players participate in the World Cup in Qatar this winter. Daily Express, former Manchester United transfer target Adrian Rabiot has broken his silence on penning a new deal with Juve. Midfielder's contract with the Serie A side expires at the end of this season. And also on the board before we go, Ronaldo will not accept an FA charge relating to an incident at Everton last season. Ronaldo was charged with improper and or violent conduct after video emerged appearing him to show him knocking a fan's mobile phone to the ground at Goodison Park. Ronaldo was due to give a response on Monday when asked what it would be. Erik ten Hag said he will not accept. Anthony Martial, still out injured for Manchester United for their group match against Omonia Nicosia on Thursday, suffered the hip injury in warm-ups on Sunday, taken off in the first half. Ten Hag says we will see how it develops to Sunday. Maguire, Wan-Bissaka, Van de Beek, and now Martial unavailable due to injuries. Let's see. Hibs have contacted Dundee United after being made aware of an alleged incident of racist abuse aimed at one of their players in Tuesday's 1-0 defeat at Tannadice. The Scottish club said that they would support an investigation and have encouraged anyone with information to come forward. Quote from the club, the incident took place in the latter stages of the second half as the player went to retrieve a ball that had gone out of play. Hibernian to make contact with Dundee United regarding this would strongly support any investigation into the matter, encourage anyone with information that could help identify the individual to come forward, end quote. So I think that is it for all of the information for today. It was great to have all of you guys with us, and it's always great to have you guys here and hanging out with all of us. Thanks to Bart Keeler. Thanks to Dylan Butler. Don't forget all the other programming that we have on the network. We've got all of the USL content. Prim and Proper is there. We're always efforting guests to see who wants to come and hang out with us. Tomorrow's going to be a power hour because of the high school football commitments. And then we've got Countdown to Kickoff at noon. This is on the GPB Sports Facebook page. Then we're taping Recruiting 2022. And then on Thursday night, it is Clash of Champions, flag football. It's going to be on the GPB streaming platform. So we get 6 of the top teams from last season starting their season off with us at West Forsyth High School. So it's flag football Thursday night, 6, 7, and 8 on gpb.org, the GPB Sports app, and all of the other media that's attached to it. We'll try to figure out a way to have Nico Moreno on and do Thursdays with Nico on a Friday probably. And so we'll be on the air at 9:05 on Friday morning to go over the playoffs. 9:30, our friends from Beyond Goals, see what we can do from there. And don't forget the College Showcase will be up and running as well. Probably have that up and running on Saturday for weekend programming as well. So once again, very, very busy week here at SDH. Thanks to all of you guys for hanging out with all of us. Burned, before we go, let me go to your end here. The two bottom teams in the German 2 Bundesliga are Bielefeld and Fürth, who both were relegated from the first Bundesliga, which isn't that common in Germany. Relegation usually not as harmful in Germany as in England. Smaller differential in budgets between the leagues, but times are changing everywhere, no doubt about it. And so, yeah, we'll keep an eye on what's going on, because I'll give you another example. You know that one of the teams that I have interest in as a part of their trusts is Scunthorpe United. They were relegated from League 2 last year, and I want to say that they are last in the National League this year. National League North, I think they're last, or they're getting close to being last. What's the I think National League, that's some rough stuff, and I think that they are that close to being relegated. They could be relegated right now one more time, and you really want to drop off the map, get relegated there. And that's looking at the National League standings. Scunthorpe is in the relegation zone for the National League, so they would be in like one of the National League North or South if they get relegated here if the season ended today. But remember, it's 23 times 2, so they're the 1/3 mark. 11 points, 2 wins in their first 13, but they're there with Torquay and Aldershot, who also have been spent time in League 2, and they're now at the bottom of the National League. So it's dangerous stuff. And for your Wrexham update, Wrexham, by the way, their FA Cup is going to be on ESPN2. That's with all of the attention. They've moved the game time, and it's going to be on ESPN2 on the weekend with FA Cup with Wrexham. Wrexham right now is second. The top team in the National League gets automatically promoted, and then 2 and 3 get a bye as they wait for the remainder of the folks, 4, 5, 6, and 7 to work their way through the playoffs. But yeah, so Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney's Wrexham right now second in the league, in the National League, only a point out of automatic promotion. So that's your Wrexham update. And I've seen the last 4 episodes of 12, 13, 14, 15. And now thanks to Bern, thanks to you for being a part of this. And Abby, thanks to you. Have a great day. For the U.S. audience. Exactly. Move the Wrexham game time for the U.S. audience. Love to see the Yanks ruining the game all over. No doubt. Enjoy your Champions League today. Really cool moment if you want to find it. It's a couple of still pictures from our friends at Shakhtar Donetsk. Had a young man who had been orphaned because of the war as their guest in Poland. Luka Modric came to visit, and they had a really cool stuff. So that's on their social media as well. That's your feel-good moment of the day on a Wall Pass Wednesday. So once again, everybody, enjoy the rest of your day. Enjoy your Champions League. Be safe. Enjoy your Braves. Enjoy your postseason. We'll be back at it tomorrow for a Power Hour. And since it is the end of the show, that means I get to do this.